David, the first question is about a possible tariff scam. It's internal. It comes from our colleague, Mary, who got pretty fired up. Here's Mary's question. Recently, I made a purchase at a store with no cash register. I used my phone. I did not get a receipt. I was told it would be emailed. When I later looked at the receipt for my $120 purchase, the bill included something called a tariff fee for $10. I was mad for two reasons. One, I felt gouged for an 8% surcharge based on nothing but hype in the news. Two, it was not disclosed at the time of the purchase, and I did not see the tariff fee as part of my bill before agreeing to the purchase. It came as a surprise after the fact. Has this become common practice in the retail market?
I have seen a few examples of this where people are putting these surcharges or tariff fees on. Now, whether or not it was disclosed, I will challenge you. It sounds like didn't pay attention at the register. If you just did like an Apple Pay or something, you said used our phone to pay. Mm-hmm. So, lo and behold, you may not have paid attention what was on that little screen. It might have flashed. I'm sure it was flashed on the screen.
Yeah.
However, you have every right to vote with your dollars, right? And say, look, I'm sorry, I'm not paying that. So it's an increased cost, but rather than pass it through, I just think the retailer just ought to price their product where they need to price it, right? And you either say yes and buy it, or you don't.
So if you need to nudge up the price, do that, but don't provoke your customers by sticking a tariff fee. Are they trying to blame the Trump administration?
And so what they're trying to do is exactly, this is a retailer trying to take the blame off of them for this increase in price. Right. But the free market works, right? If I import a good and you import a good, and we both have to pay, say, $10 in tariffs on this good, we both going to sell our product. One of us is going to sell it cheaper than the other one. Who's going to get the business? So just price it where you need to price it. And it's really weird how economics works out that way, right? But anyway, so unfortunately, though, we are seeing people take advantage of this. And of course, there was a big hubbub about Amazon. We're going to list all the tariffs, and Trump kind of went after them, and maybe we're not going to do that.
They backed off.
Yeah, they backed off. Yeah. Well, right now there's a lot going on with Jeff Bezos and cloud computing, and again, it makes people think Amazon's retail shopping. That is the smallest business they have now. I mean, they are a cloud computing company, AI company, right? And so that is where they're trying to be. They want to be on the friendly side of this administration because they want to be able to grow that business. But
wait a minute. You're saying their retail operation now is the smallish part of their operation?
Yes.
Because that's massive.
Yes, it is massive, but
I just want to make sure I understood.
It's a cash cow, but they have built so many other businesses out. What's called AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. There is more traffic goes through there than any other site in the globe, including Google. Right, so they're bigger than Google when it comes to server, space rent, and most of the websites you go to, the retail shop that you may buy these tariff products at, is probably powered by their websites behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. Before I let this go, part of Mary's frustration was she said, "Well, all right, if you're going to tell me you got to hit me for $10 for tariff, well, what materials exactly? I mean, when did they arrive? Did they arrive here prior to the tariff taking effect? Is this a tariff that is actually taking effect?
Would be
some of them haven't taken effect yet.
I believe they have the right to price their business the way they want, but I should think you should put the real tariff. The other thing is, I think people need to understand is the tariff is not on the finished price, right? And so that's where I think you can feel you're getting gouged. So I tried to explain this a while back, but if I were buying a hoodie, a pullover hoodie or of a band or something, but that hoodie was manufactured somewhere that has a tariff. If, let's say, it has a 10% tariff on it, when that comes in wholesale to this country at, say, $25, the tariff is $2.50. Even though they may retail that hoodie at $89 or $100 at the concert, the tariff is not on the retail price. It's on the wholesale price that the good came in. So if they disingenuously then made that a $10 tariff fee when it was actually $2.50, I'd be pretty upset. So, that's where I just think, hey, just price your business. Don't try and do this because you're going to end up losing the faith. And I believe, as you mentioned off camera, that Mary no longer uses this retailer, right? So just left. Yeah. And again, retailers, be careful what you do. I think the bottom line here is look, here's a great example. Target just reported, we're recording this on Wednesday. Target reported earnings this morning, and they were dismal, right? They're one of the bellwether shops. I always talk about Target and Walmart because that tells you how the everyday consumer is doing. And they blamed the backlog, or they got some backlash for canceling their DI policy. Well, if you remember 2 years ago, they lost a ton of customers because they implemented DEI. So now they're blaming the walk away. So now they pissed off the right side of the political aisle shopping and the left side.
Yeah.
So the lesson here is just stay
out of it. Yeah.
Stay out of politics. Provide a good quality product at a reasonable price, and consumers will come happily buy it. But the minute you stick your foot out there on the political side of things with a product, guess what? You've got about 46% of people will never buy your product, and vice versa. There's only about 10% people that are kind of undecided in the middle. So we are very partisan with this stuff. So why did the retailers just learn from this? Companies, look, Disney should take that lesson, right? I mean, there's so many companies that can provide quality products that people will happily buy, but their politics, I mean, my wife is that way. So she will simply say no. She will not walk into a Target, period. She won't go to Disney. There's no Nike stuff in our house. We're not allowed to have it, right? I mean, anyway, it's just, now I'm not that way. Just, I just, in the same fashion, but my wife is hardcore about this stuff, and there's a lot of passionate people in these things. So companies, the lesson should be learned here, stay out of this.
This is going back about 15 years. This is before your time even in Omaha. But when the city started imposing an extra surtax on restaurant bills.
Oh, yeah, that temporary restaurant tax that I've been paying since I moved here. Yeah,
sure. The tax still exists. Yes. Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Exactly. Well, and some restaurants would, on the bill, they'd have mayor's tax on there, because I don't want to be blamed for this, but I don't know. Probably the best course of action, as you say, is just navigate down the middle, stay neutral. Don't go either way.
I buy a lot of dinners. I spend, in restaurants, I spend over $100,000 a year because of all the dinner events that we do. Right.
Sure.
So I spend a lot. And when I start seeing this tax, I'm like, well, wait a minute. So I'm paying over $10,000 a year in a supposedly part-time tax, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I do want that SALT deduction to come in after all to give it back, right?
Fair enough.